I still think we're underutilizing telemedicine.
And so you get it down to just the critical mass of what's the minimum we need for your time with the patient time.
I'm so focused on the patient care in the moment that I don't have a hard time separating those two. What needs to be done now, and how do we help shape the future?
I can see how a person like me would get paralyzed knowing there is something better that is coming in the next couple of years, but I've got to deal with this decision right now. Hey everybody, and welcome to Free Range Vision. I'm Matt Jensen alongside Dr. Vance Thompson. And for nearly 2 decades, we've been pioneering in practice, business, and team leadership. We'll cover everything from the pivotal lessons we've learned to the formidable challenges we've overcome and sometimes lost to, providing you with the essential tools to steer your journey and empower your team as you venture together. So whether you're at the helm of a practice or simply striving to cultivate a stronger culture, well, you found your flock. Let's venture off the beaten path together. Welcome to Free Range Vision. Vance, today we're going to be doing a little futurecasting, and we're going to be talking about what's headed our way in ophthalmology, whether it's clinically or surgically. But what I want to spend most time on is talking about what practices might be overlooking that can really affect how they'll grow over the next 10 years. What are some fundamentals that we're missing today that are alarming? And so first I want to just ask that question, beyond just quarter by quarter, what's the biggest thing that practices are missing today as they plan for their future?
So maybe I'll separate it into practice versus, the actual delivery of what we do. But on the practice side, real estate is really precious, and this idea of trying to utilize your space to the best of your ability and to also respect people's schedules and get them a really quality exam and if necessary surgery, but to do it in a way that respects their time. I still think we're underutilizing telemedicine. And so that I have a dream of utilizing the clinic space for what you need it for. So a physical measurement, or it's hard to do surgery somewhere else. I am working with a robotics company in Israel. That is our dream. I mean, in the beginning, it's going to be a surgeon run in a way that you're in the operating room with the patient. Has some neat advantages, but with the ultimate dream that I could be helping people in Africa while I'm here also, because there's a shortage of
access is a real issue, right?
This growing population and this there's not enough ophthalmologists, and so ways to expand us are important to consider. But I do think that during COVID, I thought that telemedicine really grew nicely, but it hasn't continued that growth. And I called it teletalking back then. You may remember me talking about that there was only so much you could do.
Well, I remember not liking it then. And today I also don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep
teletalking.
That.
Yeah. But I think that's where we need to get really good at, is we wait too long to educate the patient. And so to do as much as we can and meet them where they are, in their home, their business, their car, wherever, before having them come into the office and doing an hour of talking that could have happened outside the office.
That's right, because that is so precious, that time and that real estate, and that access point.
And so I feel like we've kind of rested or just haven't thought about telemedicine to the level that we should, and that's something that I'm thinking about and working on.
Well, the way you describe it, Vance, it's telemedicine. I almost think is lateral. What once we did in an exam room, doctor to patient. Now we'll do it not in an exam room, doctor to patient somewhere other than in an exam room,
right?
And that's equal. It's equal to equal,
right?
But what you're saying is actually, well, let's take all of the things that are part of that examination, including education. And let's not have anything sacred. Let's just have part and parse as much out of that can be delegated to another medium, maybe a video, maybe somebody else can do that piece of education. Maybe it can be done while the patient is driving, listening to a track that you created for them. And so you get it down to just the critical mass of what's the minimum we need for your time with the patient time.
Exactly.
And then that piece.
Right.
Is done in a telemedicine type fashion.
And the way technology is going, we can grow in something we couldn't do during COVID, and that is some of the physical aspects. The part that kind of frustrated me, the technology world is really going after, and that is remote diagnostics and remote monitoring, remote exams. And so this idea of the clinic without walls, to me, is a big part of the future.
Well, and you and I work with an organization that's helping do that with the only part of the exam that's still analog, right? With a slit lamp exam, which is really subjective still done in an analog fashion.
Right.
It can now be done digitally by a technician,
right,
and captured in a digital form,
right,
which has all kinds of great overtones for AI and other things.
And you mention AI because that's the big thing I really wanted to mention that I'm trying to get better and better at is how can AI enhance every aspect of the customer or patient experience cycle, and that, as you know, medicine's complicated, and people are easily confused, and they can make decisions that they regret and they typically adapt to, but that's not ideal. What you want is the optimal experience, the optimal technology, the optimal journey for the patient. And that's where I think AI is going to help a lot. So this idea of, taking the patient experience cycle and looking at the clinic without walls and what needs to be done in our center, but every step of it also using AI to optimize, that's the part that I get super excited about.
Well, I get excited about it too, and it's already an old book, but Topol's book, The Patient Will See You Now.
Yes.
Which in almost 2 decades later, it still has a lot of great relevance in how we should be looking at the healthcare market. But the clinic without walls really positions the patient in the seat of authority of when they're going to be ready to see the doctor, not the other way around.
Right.
And I think that's really, really valuable. How do you, when you're talking about or thinking about long-term strategies for access or to respond to demand, how do you counterbalance those things that you know are coming but are a few years off? How do you counterbalance that with what needs to be done this week, next quarter?
Well, I don't have a hard time with that. I'm so focused on the patient care in the moment that I don't have a hard time separating those two. What needs to be done now, and how do we help shape the future?
Yeah,
I think where I get challenged is when we've proven there's a better way, whether it's through an FDA-monitored clinical trial, whether it's through data-driven decisions, and there's a little bit of delay in getting the technology. And then I just talk with the patient about that. Here's your options now, and here's what's coming down the pike for your situation, and how do we handle that? And that's not easy.
Right.
And so you really need to have an open dialogue with your patients, because everything's happening at such a fast pace.
Well, I remember you having this conversation with me right after I joined you. You had already met with my wife. She had had a consult with you before she and I were even engaged. She had such a high correction. You said, "I'm not sure you'd be a good candidate for LASIK," which, by the way, at that time, almost nobody would say.
Right.
A lot of people were still doing very, very high corrections on the cornea. And you said, I'm working on an FDA-monitored clinical trial, and there could be some fun things for you in the future, but right now I would just wait.
And that was phakic IOLs.
That was phakic IOLs. Yeah. And after I started with you, she had another consult to confirm that. And I remember a few weeks after that particular phakic IOL was commercialized, she came in, she had the procedure, 9 3/4 or whatever, 9.5 diopters of correction, and still a very happy phakic IOL patient. But you had to convince her to wait.
Right.
Because there's something around the corner.
Right.
I think surgically, clinically, I think that's maybe easier to do, because especially when you're in your position and you know what's coming, because you're so involved with the innovation side of what we do. I think on the business side of it, or the admin side, or technologies that can help with data-driven decision-making, I can see how a person like me would get paralyzed knowing there is something better that is coming in the next couple of years, but I've got to deal with this decision right now.
Right.
And it's encouraging for me to hear you say, I'm not distracted by that.
Right.
And you've got a very good nose of doing the right thing in the moment with the patient. But
I'm not distracted by it, but I have my eye on it.
Yeah.
And I'm involved with it. But that to me is that brings color to the practice of medicine. Mm-hmm. It makes it fun trying to figure out how to touch the patients of the future.
And what do you think from a team standpoint? Similar vein, what are the things that we're overlooking with our teams that we need to be mindful of over the next decade?
This blend between work and family is something that fascinates me also. I'm not someone who minds people texting at work. Mm-hmm. I trust them to do their job, but I also know they have children to check on and want them to feel that inner peace. And
what you mean by that is you're not making them check their phone in a basket on their way into work and then they can have it on breaks.
No,
right.
No, it's with them. Mm-hmm. Plus, I can text them.
Right. Self-serving benefit.
That's
right?
not. No, I know. I promise that's not why. But I think as far as team, I mean, it's a challenge out there with the rising cost of living and rising costs of healthcare and trying to figure out how much the employer should pay and how much the team should pay, and so I've found over the years, and I'm blessed with having partners who feel the same way, mm-hmm. that it's really satisfying and rewarding to pay people well, educate them well in what we do continuing education, take time together to have fun. I still believe that the most powerful force on Mother Earth is love, but right after that, this idea of time, mm-hmm. and giving someone the gift of your time, and right after that, this idea of care and really deeply caring, but right after that, fun. That when you really care about someone, you want to bring that fun bug out of them. You take the time for things like that. And so these attributes that make a good family also make a good work family. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, in this digital age of it just progressing more and more, and I don't know if I would say the world's getting, colder. In some ways, I feel like with social media and ways of connecting, it's getting warmer. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're able to, touch each other from a distance. You know what I mean? And so, I think that the employee who continues to figure out how to, care for an employee in the way they want, and to care for their family, and to care about what they care about, to me is a big one. Those are some of the things that I think about.
Yeah, and I think that it comes back to your main philosophy on the team feeling loved and cared for.
Yeah.
That's what will create an environment where the customer, the patient, feels loved and cared for. But it's not easy to do. It's not handy. You have to invest in it.
Right.
And so that mindset, I think, is really important. And I heard someone very recently say, because they're going through a troubling time, they said, 1 year from today is my favorite day. Because they know that they'll be out of the woods then. Right. And so if you imagine how you're going to invest in your team, and you can hold your breath and say 10 years from today, it's going to be the greatest day, because I know that after years of investment, the team is going to be that much more galvanized and resolved and unified. Really important. And I think that is the way you've looked at your team, both, all the teams that you work with.
Right.
Is with that forward mindset, and it's worth investing in.
Well, it really is, because when I think about starting with the practice of one, and it's now, big, 500 people, I would have never imagined that it would be as caring.
It's mind-blowing.
As when it was little. But with the proper structure, and with, leaders taking care of each other, and then leaders going out and leading, and there being a framework to it, you really can spread the love in a way where an organization feels little, even though it's big.
Right. Yeah, you have to do that through individual relationships, right? And, to borrow your phrase, you have to be good at teletalking.
Right.
And maybe even telehugging.
Right. Or this morning, there were 3 birthdays, one in Alexandria, one in Bozeman, one in Omaha. And I wished them all happy birthday.
Right.
And I've done that, when I was a team of, 2 and then 3. And I love doing that. And I'm not going to stop.
Yeah. And you shouldn't. You shouldn't. It's contagious. Well, I think that's good to just kind of think about as you're faced with the mindset of what will things look like over the next decade, what you're going to dig in on, invest in, to make sure your team and your business and your personal life are kind of taken care of with what you're investing in today. Good discussion, Vance.
Thank you, Matt.